Hey everybody, and I just want to record this one. Like I said, I was going to do the other things that I just want to talk about Terrifier 2. And so we went and saw it tonight. I know it's been out for a little while, but this was the chance that we finally got to see it in the theaters. Went out with my cousins and Paranormal Pat, and I was lucky enough, well, I don't want to say lucky enough, but happy enough, I think that's a better way to say it, to actually show them Terrifier over the weekend, and at least to show Paranormal Pat and my cousin Crystal do it. And so, because they want to see the second one, they're like, oh, do we need to see the first one? And part of me was like, oh, you don't really need to. And even after seeing this, it helps. It definitely helps some to see the first one. I think that you can kind of get away with only seeing the second one. But the other thing is that it really wasn't available in a theater that was near us. Everything was like super far away, a good 45-minute or more drive, and that's without traffic. Now, if there was traffic, hi Zach, how are you doing? Then it would have been, it's basically going to be even longer to get over there, because like for us, when traffic hits bad. And so overall, I think that the movie is really good. I really enjoyed my time watching the movie. I smiled every time Art the Clown was on the screen, and I just absolutely love that character. I know we talked about it before in depth. I talked about it with Dave on Dave's old podcast, and I still really like the first one a lot. I can't say whether or not I like this one more, right? I think I like this one equally. I think I like them both a lot. I was very surprised when I saw the first Terrifier. I'm not as surprised, but I have equal enjoyment with this one. The negatives that I want to really fast, I'm not going to go like super in depth into anything. Actually, I'm going to kind of save that for a little bonus mini episode. So if you want a lot more on spoilers, they're going to be on the podcast. They're not going to be in this video. I'm going to try not to spoil anything for this little episode. But the things that I didn't like about the movie was the length. I think that it was really good going up until the final act, and I just felt like the final act was just too long. There was just too much extra to the story, and there's stuff that they allude to in the story that you're like, well, is it true? Are you guys going to talk about it? Are you going to do something different? Like, what exactly is it going to be? And it never really gets to that. Like, they do a little bit of an explanation on something that goes on with the main character, and the it doesn't really have as big of a payoff as I thought it was going to be. That's probably my biggest issue with it. And like I said, the ending does run a little bit long. There are cool things that happen during that last sequence, and there's some great special effects that go into this. And again, it's very raw. I really enjoy that it's that raw and that everything is pretty much practical. That's great. And it's just that even though I get more art, I don't know if I needed that last like 20 to 30 minutes of the movie. I think you could have just ended it differently, ended it at a different spot, and there was enough shocking stuff that I didn't need anything extra, right? And I especially didn't need that little bit of a storyline that they had going on, and that just the last like sequence or so. There is a credit scene, a mid-credit scene that is weird, and again, I'm not sure if I needed it, but it definitely gives you a little bit of closure, but not like the closure that you necessarily need. It kind of sets it up for a third movie, right? That there could be a lot more that's going on with this. You don't necessarily, like I said, I don't know if you necessarily need it. I, of course, will always be happy to have more Art the Clown and to see where they go from this. But that's really it. I didn't dislike any of the characters. I like that it was a more cohesive story overall. Like the first one was shocking just because you didn't know who the main, who the antagonist was, okay? That's simple enough. But you didn't know who was the main protagonist of the film. And honestly, I don't think there really is one for the first one. And you're shocked at when a character dies like midway through the movie because you're focusing so much on this character, and they kind of bring somebody else in at the beginning of the movie. And maybe at the end of the first act, the character shows up once again. But, she's still not like a main heroine type of character. Not a she's a final girl, but she's not really in the way that I would think that a final girl would be in a horror movie. And I thought that that was interesting that they did that in the first time, right? We're here, we literally have a final girl that's a final girl. She literally is. And I like the fact that the story was really focused on her and kept going, and you know, she did a good job. The acting is pretty well for this type of horror movie, I think. But of course, the showstopper is always going to be Art the Clown when it comes with this. He is just such an amazing character, and I always fuck up his last name, but you know, David, I'm sorry if I forgot your last name, or I don't want to fuck it up, but you are fucking amazing as Art the Clown. Like, absolutely stunning. Now, this is a little bit of a spoiler, but it happens right at the beginning of the movie, and I won't explain really what the character is, but there's basically like a little Art that's in it, and she is absolutely amazing as well. Played, you know, really well. The actress that does her mimics a lot of what Art does, and is creepy in her own regard, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I thought it was great when she showed up. A little disgusting when she showed up, but overall, I think that it didn't deter from the movie, and that's what I was really afraid of, that it was going to deter from the other stuff, but it's still Art's fucking show, man. It just, the kills are really inventive. They're very gory. You know, there's talks about people like throwing up in the theater and it getting to be a little bit too much for them. And I kept thinking to myself, when? Maybe when the girl shows up, if you know what I mean, if you've seen the movie. There's a scene with a bed. Maybe that scene is the one that's there. Maybe towards the end of the last act. I don't know, because I think I've seen worse, right? I haven't seen worse. I will say this for almost a fact. I have not seen worse on the big screen. This is the bloodiest movie I have ever seen on the big screen for my time, right? Like, when I really started going to horror movies in the theaters, you know, you miss the 80s because the 80s had a lot of really gory horror movies that came out. And then the 90s, the major releases that happen, they skimp on the gore. And there are some great gory movies that are out there, you know, like the remake for The Evil Dead, or reboot, remake, whatever you want to call it. That was extremely gory too, but I didn't see that in the theater, right? And I just can't think of something that is this explicit with the gore that I've seen on the giant screen. But yeah, like I said, I like the characters, all the other characters that are in the movie. I like the special effects. I think they're really well done. There's a couple of silly moments, but art literally steals the show. And even with the bad things, like, and it's not that much, right? Like, I'm just talking about like length of the movie and some silly plot points that were in there, but I don't necessarily need like in this type of movie, I don't really need a plot point, right? I don't need extra plot. You could just literally have almost rehashed the first one and kept Art as cool as he was, and I still would have loved this movie. But I think it's a bonus that we actually get more of a plot in this one. And I think that they do a good job transitioning from the first film to this film. And honestly, if you really didn't see Terrifier and you're like, I have to go see what the hype is, it's okay for you to see Terrifier 2. You're just going to miss out on a couple of Easter eggs. And there were actually a bunch of other Easter eggs in this movie that I absolutely loved that you could see in the background. I think I saw a Halloween 3 mask, which was really fucking cool. If they were using that, or might have just been somebody dressing up with like a pumpkin head. I don't know, but I felt like it was from Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. And there were just a couple other little things, and there were some shocking moments that I was surprised that we even got to see. Whoa, pardon me. And like I said, this is a lot just like stream of consciousness time for review and going into it, and I'm really trying not to spoil things because I want to talk about every little thing that goes in there. The brother character is kind of annoying, you know, and the basic plot of the movie is that, you know, Art's back. It's a year later after the first incident, and now we're focused on our main character, Sienna, and her family, and you know, their father's suicide has left them, and maybe that's a little bit of a spoiler, but not really. But his death in general has left them kind of all broken in some way, shape, or form. The mother, the son, and, you know, of course, the daughter that we're focusing on. And then Art kind of comes back and also haunts her and haunts the rest of the family with all the killings that go on. And then then we just proceed from there. That's literally the basics of the plot. And like I said, there is something that's in there that I'll talk more about when I do a little more of a spoilerish type of talk. That I just trying to figure out if that's actually the case. And it may be, and maybe that's what they're alluding to, and we don't actually get it. Now, does this need a sequel? Like I said, no, I don't feel like it does. I think you could end it there and kind of leave it open-ended and have never got a sequel, but I think that this is popular enough that it's going to get one. I think that I think most everybody that I know that has seen this really likes it. I absolutely adore it. I think that it's great for what it is. I'm not taking it on, a higher type of like, this isn't like psychological trauma horror, or it's not a slow burn. It's not, something that you can dissect it's very straightforward. There are questions that are raised, and maybe you could try to get something from that, but I really don't feel like I need to worry about those questions. I just get to enjoy art more. And that's what I talked about earlier. Art the Clown, even with just All Hallows Eve and with Terrifier, I would place him in the echelon of great horror villains that, if you're looking at like the Mount Rushmore of horror villains, or you're looking at the big ones, right? Everybody puts Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers and Chucky, and for some reason Ghostface is put in there. And then you have Pennywise that's put in there. And it's the new Pennywise too, which that drives me fucking crazy. But why put him? And it's not to say that Pennywise from It, the newer versions, the theatrical versions of It, aren't good character. It's like not a good character. It is a fantastic character, but he hasn't done enough to me to get to that point. Art has done enough. If I had to create a secondary one, you'd have Victor Crowley and Art included in that, or I were to add characters. These are two characters I would completely add to that echelon of excellent horror villains. And I think that there's just enough, and not just enough. That's not saying right. There's more than enough. There's an overwhelming like way that the character is just like, it's so great because the humor is perfectly there. Even in the kills, the humor is there, and then it's you get the shockingness, but just the fact that he doesn't talk, he does the whole mime thing. He knows how to use his eyebrows really well, even though a lot of them are drawn on. But it's so cool. Even like you have the intro scene and he goes into the laundromat. It's so great. And it's so funny in the way that it's done that I think that it's fun. The movie is fun. So this movie gets 4 out of 5 salt rubs. It is a fantastic movie. It just because of that final act, that's why I can't give it a 5 out of 5. But if you are interested in seeing this movie and you have seen Terrifier and you love Terrifier, you're getting more of what you got in Terrifier. And they even go into, and I guess this might be the spoiler, they even go into the Terrifier at one point. It's not really a spoiler, but I enjoyed that, like, and in the back of my mind, oh my God, they have the name of the movie, it's inside the movie. So, yeah, go see it if you can. Get it when it's on VOD. It's worth your time. This one, if I can find physical media for this one, I think that this is going to be part of my collection. Maybe they'll put a collection of Terrifier and All Hallows Eve and Terrifier 2 together. I would love to get that. If you haven't seen All Hallows Eve either, you should watch that movie. It's pretty good. It's not as good as Terrifier is, but it's still pretty good. And it's a different actor playing Art the Clown. I really think that our current actor, again, I'm so bad that I forgot the last name of David. And I know somebody will remind me, but again, this is just stream of consciousness. This isn't me like trying to figure everything out. Also, there's a cool little cameo in this movie as well. It's just good. He's such an amazing actor for what it is. And if Art ever spoke, I'd be very upset. Like, he has to remain like this. And I think that this reminds me of those classic silent actors, like a Buster Keaton type of performance where you get all the emotion, all the humor and everything out of it with him not having to say a word. And I absolutely adore this character. So make sure that you go see it. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll, I guess See you next time. Make sure to check out the podcast and check out the new mini episode that'll come out later this week from when this was recorded, where I'm going to go into depth about what I really liked about it and talk about some of the kills and talk about what I had problems with the plot and all that fun stuff. So we will check you out soon.